I'm going to do a show, it's always an exciting day for me because I always like to share the stories that I have experienced and just things that I believe will help you in this journey that we're all going through, this journey of uh, creating a new identity, creating or remembering, going back to that place of our true self so that we can live this life in our most authentic self. Then I start thinking, I start realizing that, you know what? My thoughts is really what generates the activities, the experiences. My thoughts are so um, crucial in generating the experiences that I encounter, and I can really govern my thoughts and or rule my thoughts in any direction, whether it's positive and expecting the best, or doom and gloom and think about all the things that are happening. And then I realize that it's me. I am the one that have to generate the thoughts that's going to keep me motivated, that's going to keep me encouraged, that's going to keep me happy and content, and look at the positive and view people with a good lens, and uh, abstain from any kind of judgment or criticism. Criticism, we always criticize. We look at something and be like, what's that? And so I realized it's me. It is all up to me to really navigate in a way where I set my course. And I hope you are having a good day, and that you realize that it's also up to you. And regardless of what you're going through, you have the ability, you have the skill, you have the mindset, you have the know-how to pivot, to flip it around, to respond in different ways where it's going to be beneficial to you. And in all of that, I start thinking about Caroline, who shared her story. And it was quite interesting to see the whole trajectory of her journey. And that's what I want to share with you today, because even though it started out as a sad story, the ending is really where we all can navigate and go in that direction. So Caroline uh, just turned 60 years old, and she's excited about turning 60. And just, she's been married for 35 years and has 3 kids. They're all grown adults out of the house and with their own families. So it's her and her husband. So she turned 60, and evidently I don't know what she had planned, but evidently she had some things planned for herself with her husband. And anyway, he came home and said to her that that he wants a divorce because he no longer loves her, and he is going to be with his secretary. He is falling in love with his secretary, and he wants to divorce her. Obviously, when you hear something like that, which catches you off guard, I don't know whether or not she saw it coming, because generally there are signs in your relationship. That's why you have to be so intentional, and you have to keep it going, because any little change you will notice. You will notice changes, attitudes, behaviors, patterns, because we all have patterns in our lives. In everything, we have patterns in how we conduct certain situations in our lives, and even relationships. We have patterns that we uh, engage in time after time after time. Even patterns in how you communicate with each other. My husband, before he leaves the house every day, he kisses me and he says, I love you, sweetheart, and he's gone. And I says, that is a pattern. That is a pattern that happens every day. When he comes home, he kisses me. That is a pattern. Before we go to bed, there are patterns in every relationship. So when things changes, when things change, you can sense especially a woman, our intuition is like, so sharp. And, of course, we train ourselves that way. But innately, I believe our intuition is so sharp because we're so, especially when you have kids, you have to be so perceptive and watchful of them and so forth. So I don't know whether or not Caroline saw it coming, but she just froze. She was in shock. She froze, and it took her a while to digest, to absorb, to really uh, get it. And for a split second, she thought it was a bad joke, but then she realized that her husband was serious. He said, I'm going to move out and I'm going to leave you with the house, and I will give you a certain alimony so that you can carry on with your life. So he already had it all planned out. Carolyn, of course, was devastated. She felt like, she said, she felt like the earth opened up underneath her and she fell into the abyss. She said she was so stunned, so shocked, frozen, uh, just really could not believe what she was hearing. So day after day, she went for a walk. She went for a walk and she walked for like 2 hours, and she looked at the businesses, she looked at other couples, walking, holding hands. She looked at businesses that are, people in and out. She looked at, the sun and the clouds and felt the wind against her face. And, her thoughts was just, she was just so in shock for so many days. Caroline said that she did not share it with her mother or with her sisters. She told no one. For some reason, she didn't say why not, but she just felt like she needed to navigate this journey alone. Day after day after day went by, and she just went walking every single day. Of course, she entertained different emotions, the emotions of being a victim, the emotions of being betrayed, the emotions of being lied to, cheated on. Uh, how could I not have seen this? Just self denial and self blame, blaming herself. What did she do wrong? Where did she go wrong? What did she not do? And, she went through a lot of that while she walked. And she said she would go walking and walk for like 2 hours, not even being conscious of the distance. As she walked, those thoughts just ran around in her mind over and over and over and over again. And she simply could not believe it. Anyway, came the day that her husband moved out. As a matter of fact, I think it was that same week, because once he told her, he was almost ready to move out and, had all the paperwork ready for the divorce. And she paused for a little bit because she needed to absorb all of it. 35 years is a lot of years um, to invest in a relationship, in a marriage, in a partnership, in a team situation, as a unit, and for it to just dissolve, especially you not being aware of what happened. And if the reason was, I'm no longer in love with you. And the more I think of it, that's not it doesn't mean the person was bad. The person just fell out of love, and that can be a shocker. That's why, when I talk about traditional vows, for better, for worse, for good, I don't subscribe to any kind of vows because things happen. Things happen, and it doesn't mean the person is bad. It means that this person honored his own authenticity and moved on. Whether it's, again, it can be good or bad, right or wrong. The person, her husband, was just being himself, and unfortunately, it caught her off guard because Carolyn, or Caroline, I think it is Caroline. Caroline lived in a state of default, pretty much on autopilot. She raised three amazing adults, three kids, and they're adults, all married with their children. And I'm assuming that she was an empty nester by the time she was turning 60. But her life was based on, it was geared by autopilot, lived by default. One thing, the same thing over and over and over and over, and not really being intentional. So I don't know what she had planned for the future, but up until when she turned 60, everything was just pretty much routine. Everything was routine. The husband goes to work, provides well. They had a very affluent life, and they were flourishing in their life materially. She lacked for nothing, and so she was okay. She was okay. There was nothing for her to be suspicious about. But then again, when you live a life of routine and by default and on autopilot, it lacks intentionality. You have to be aware. You have to be intentional in your relationship with your partner. Intentional, and keep things alive and vibrant and well and engaging in each other and so forth. Again, I'm just speaking from my perspective. She may have done all of that, but by then her partner, her husband, may have already been engaged in an adulterous situation that went down to a level where he had to make a choice, and that was his choice. But anyway, so she kept thinking, and the self-blame and the guilt, the shame, the self-judgment, she's judging herself and blaming herself and all that. That went on for a while. That went on for a long time. Perhaps a couple of months and so forth. And by then, I don't know if she had already shared it with her family, but she chose to be alone in this. She chose to navigate this journey by herself. So came a point where she had to make a decision. Is she going to continue to go down this hole, this abyss, this dark place of guilt and shame and fear? Is she going to go down this road alone? And then she start thinking, what can she do? What can I do? Because remember, she was a housewife all these years. She was a housewife raising the kids, stay at home and so forth. She was a housewife. And so she went into her bank and to do inventory, to try to figure out, what am I good at doing? What can I do? Sometimes when you're a housewife, you don't really give yourself a lot of credit for all the things that you have done in the household, ran the house administratively, keep records, be creative with things, create meals and all of that kind of stuff. And then she realized that one of the things she liked to do the most was to bake pastries and cookies for her family. And but she just did that for her family. But they always, as a matter of fact, whenever they went someplace, she would take the dessert, the pastries, and so forth. And people always talk about how delicious they are and so forth. So she thought that she would sign up into a culinary school, um, for pastries. She thought, I'm going to sign up and go to college, culinary school for pastries. And she did that. She just did that. She just thought, this is what I like to do. Let me just do that. But in her mind, she thought, I'm going to do this just to keep my mind active and get out of this funk, of this depression, of this low place where she had taken herself. And she said, I'm going to just do that because that was the thing that she liked to do the most. And as simple as it seemed, she just thought, I'm going to do that. I'm gonna go to school, and I'm going to go to this culinary school, the best culinary school in her area, and she's going to do whatever, however long it took to graduate and to learn the things that she needed to learn and so forth. Well, she graduated with I guess high honors. I mean, I don't know how all that works, but she graduated with a lot of recognition that she had the skills and she had the ability to create and to make beautiful pastries and delicious pastries and a variety of stuff, not only cookies, but just a lot of French pastries and Italian pastries and all of that. So in doing that, and of course in the university, in the college that she went, not only did they teach you about the skills to bake and so forth, but they also taught the monetary aspect of it, how to monetize this skill. And they talked about working in a high caliber restaurant, a high-end restaurant, or whatever, working for a specialty store and things of that nature. So they learned all of that. Now, by then, she was feeling a little bit more confident in herself. She had gotten over the whole betrayal thing and knew that her and her husband getting back together, that was not an option. She had become a little more independent with the decision that she made to go to school. So Caroline decided to, once she graduated, she decided that she was going to bake these pastries and take them to high-end specialty stores and put them there as consignment. It's interesting because this is things that sometimes you see these cookies or these pastries in the store, and it says, so and so bakery, and now I realize that it's consignment anyway. So she would bake these pastries and have them displayed in a store, and they would begin to just sell out like fast. And she realized that she would have to, she got busy baking like every day because they would sell out fast. And the place where she had as consignment, they kept demanding more and more. So she went from one high-end specialty store to another high-end specialty store, and then sooner than you know, she had like, I guess, 5 different places that she was baking for. So she got so busy every day. She was baking and baking and baking so that she could provide these pastries for these specialty stores where she had them as consignment. Then she thought, you know what? Instead of doing that, I need to open a bakery. So she got all this stuff arranged, and Caroline opened a bakery. Imagine that. She opened a bakery of her own. She said, you know what? I am not going to do this anymore. I'm going to open a bakery. Well, I'm not going to do the consignment anymore. I'm going to open a bakery. And then, of course, the places where she had as consignment, they became clients of hers. So not only did she bake for her own showcase, but she also baked enough where she could distribute her pastries to these places where she had them as consignment. So not only was she getting income from these five different high-end stores, specialty gourmet stores, but she also had a storefront of pastry and so forth. Her business started to grow. Remember, Caroline, she was a housewife raising three kids, married 35 years. It just really excites me, her story. Sad in the beginning, but to see what she said she had to change her whole identity because she had her identity was in her husband and the way he provided. She was able to do whatever she wanted. They went on vacation. Sometimes he couldn't make it. You know, she had brand new cars every day. She had a big, beautiful house. She had all of that. So her identity was in her husband. She didn't know who she was. So with this going back to college, that was a decision that she made on her own. She decided that on her own. And the thing is this, she said, I did not share this with anyone. That was a decision that I made on my own. And she said the reason she didn't share it with anyone is because she didn't want to hear any, but if maybe you're too old, or can you really do that? Do you really want to do that? Or you're going to spend 2 years or whatever. I don't know how long it took her, in learning that, and like who's going to buy your cookies. She didn't want to hear any of that. How much is it going to cost you? Is there any? She didn't want to hear any of that, so she kept it to herself until, of course, she registered into the college, and then her schedule got busy. She wasn't available to go out to lunch with her sisters or friends or her mother. She wasn't available because she had things to do. And so anyway, so she had her 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 bakery. Remember, in order to get a business set up, you have to find a building or a spot, and then you have to get an accountant, you have to get an attorney, you have to get a real estate person, you have to get all of those business people to help you put it together. You have to get a bank loan unless you have the money. You still have to get the bank involved, and all of that. Set up your register, do the personnel and all of that. And while she was in school, she said that she met some people that were doing the same thing as she was, just kind of there, not necessarily career bound, but just people that wanted to sharpen their skills in that particular area of baking. So she got the business set up and she opened her storefront. And I mean, she could not produce her pastries fast enough because they would just fly off the shelf. They would just go. Not only did she have, remember, she had five consignment customers, high-end gourmet shops that she provided these pastries to, and then she had her own storefront. It became so busy that she decided that, well, she opened another shop. She opened two more bakeries. So she had the five consignment stores, and then she had two bakeries. Well, hers, two additional bakeries uh, to the one that she opened. So that's three bakery shops. Business got so busy that she decided to open a factory, a bake factory. She had to. She had to put all of that together. And, in all of that, Caroline became an entrepreneur. She became an entrepreneur. Uh, she said that experience pushed her into that. It wasn't even something that she thought or she planned or she thought, once the kids are out of the house, I'm going to do this. This was not on Caroline's radar at all. This was simply not on her radar. But she knew she had to do something. She could have stayed home because her husband provided enough alimony that she didn't really need to go out and work. The only reason she decided to go back to school was because she knew, after she decided that she's not going to stay in the state of depression that she was, that she wasn't going to stay in that funk, that she wasn't going to stay in that dark place, that she wasn't going to stay as a victim, that she wasn't going to embody the emotions of betrayal or hate or anger, because she went through a period of all of that. But then she realized that she couldn't live that way. She realized that she could not, in order for her to words like thrive and flourish, those were not part of her vocabulary. She said that wasn't part of what, she wasn't going for that. She was just trying to survive. She was still in survival mode. And when she went to college, those were all coping mechanism. Her survival turned into coping mechanism because of the trauma she suffered. And, when she would walk, because she continued to walk, and when she walked and she see couples walking, holding hands, those were triggers. Those were triggers to her. And it all, always took her back a couple steps. She said those were triggers. When she would see a couple kiss, or in the store shopping together and looking at things together, those were all triggers. Imagine that. And then she said she had to do something. She had to do something. She said she did not want to be here on this earth anymore. She did not see any reason why she would be on earth, why she would be here. She could not even think of any reason why she should continue to live. And once she decided that no, she's going to pivot. And that wasn't like a hard decision. That was just, I've got to do something with my life. And so, she started out by, start fixing herself. She got a haircut. She went and got her hair dyed, colored. And she went to the store. She said, I went to my closet and I got rid of everything. She said, I got rid of every garment of clothing that I had, outside clothes. And I went to the store and I bought like 4 outfits, fine looking outfits, nice looking outfits, brand new. She did not care how much they cost. And she just recreated a new Caroline. That's before she went into school. She started with changing her image. She started by changing her image because she realized that she could not outperform the identity that she had of herself. Again, remember, her life was all on autopilot and living by default, and she was just really a mom and a wife of 35 years, not thinking of spicing things up or, not really taking time for yourself. Because I guess, after a while, being a mom for 35 years, it can be pretty tiring, or a wife for 35 years. When I say tiring, I mean in terms of you have to be so intentional, so conscious. You get up, you shower, you put on a little makeup, and you have your nice, jeans and whatever top, and you look good for you. You look good for you. And of course, by association, if your husband is home, he, leaves the house, thinking of how you looked. Anyway, so she made those changes first, and then after she started feeling good about herself is when the thing is this, and what I heard from her when she was sharing, she said, when I start taking care of me, when I start taking care of me, the way I look, the image that I had of myself, when I start taking care of that, things became clearer. I got clarity about my life. I got clarity. I felt good about myself. I felt, she said, I felt confident, a little more confident. And so she just kind of made some bold moves, according to her. She did some bold things that she would have never thought of. And one of those things was, again, getting registered into a college, a culinary school to learn the pastry and things like that. So she started, she opened the factory, and the bake factory had to, that's where they would do all the baking and provide the pastries to the different, well, the three bakery stores that she owned, and then the other consignment customers that she had. And she ended by saying, she just never thought that when she looked back, of course, she shared with, a little bit of sadness, because it's not, she said, this is not what I pictured my life would turn out to be. She said, this is not what I thought. She said, I expected to go into the, my later years, into the horizon, my later years with my husband, really enjoying the time, getting older together, traveling and doing some fun stuff together. She said, but here I am, in my 60s, navigating through this journey alone, being a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. And I get the impression that her skill is so sharp that she for her business to have grown so fast. Because the thing of it that I admire also is that she started as consignment. She didn't just go out and just open this big old bakery. And no, she said she started as consignment, and as her pastries started to sell and sell and sell, and the demand became larger and larger and larger, bigger and bigger, she thought, wow, this is great. And that, of course, was her clue to expand. And then she's like, wait a minute, if I'm doing this for them, I can do this for me and them. The high-end gourmet stores. That's a beautiful story. And she said, here I am in my 60s, an entrepreneur, a new woman with a new identity, navigating through life on my own, something I had not planned to do. So what this tells me is, number one, Caroline made decisions for herself. Just imagine, sometimes we need, and the way she shared it, it's like she did not look for outside validation. As a matter of fact, she said, I, on purpose, I did not want, I refrained from telling anyone my plans, because I didn't want to be discouraged. I didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't want any negative talk. I didn't want anyone to ask me, are you sure you want to do this? I didn't want anyone to ask me, can you afford this? Because evidently this school was kind of pricey. And that was not an issue for her. She said, I didn't want to hear all of that. She said, I had clarity. After I decided to change my, she said, of course, she had to change the way she thought, the way she think. She said, after I changed the way I think, she had to upgrade. She had to update actually her belief system. She said, I had to update the way I thought about myself. She had to update the things that she was used to, the things that, all the traditional ways, you don't do this, you don't do that. Can you do this? Can you do that? Are you sure about this? Are you sure about that? What are your concerns? She had to get rid of all of that. What are people going to say? What is your mom going to say? What is your family going to say? What are your kids going to think? She said she had to update her belief system and start believing in herself. And start believing in herself. And she said it didn't matter whether those people were proud of her. She said she became proud of her accomplishment. She became proud that she was able to take herself out of that situation. It's interesting that she said that, because whenever you have a situation, when you know someone, and when you let's say your kids, when they have an accomplishment, always, instead of saying, you can also say, I am so proud of you, Bob, or I'm so proud of you, Sarah, whatever. Always share with them, you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud of yourself, so that they can grow not to expect outside validation. So whenever they have a win, they know that it's them. They know that it's them, and they can be proud of themselves. There's a story that I heard of this parent. He said, when you raise your kids, teaching them to be proud of themselves. He said there are these two guys. One family raised their son. Whenever he had an accomplishment, they would say to him, we are so proud of you, Johnny. We are so proud of you. And this family over here, they would say to their son, little Peter, Peter, you should be proud of yourself. Look at what you did. You should be so proud of yourself. And, it's not, again, don't get it twisted. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's acknowledging their accomplishment. It's owning their win. You should be so proud of yourself. So when they go into corporate America or whatever, to do business or whatever, and Peter gets a raise, or Peter makes a sale, or Peter closes a deal, Peter knows that it's his effort, his skill, his ability, and his expertise. And he is encouraged to continue performing and to learn, new strategies and all that. In the meantime, little Johnny gets a raise or closes a deal, and he calls dad to say, Dad, and if he doesn't get a hold of dad, he gets all discombobulated. He doesn't know how to, he's that external validation is not present. And he gets all flustered. Why? Because dad is not there to validate his win. To say, oh, wow, you got a raise. That's great. I am so proud of you. Johnny needs that validation. In the meantime, Peter knows of his accomplishment, and he's good with that. He's He's good with that. He doesn't need his dad to validate him. Now, if he shares it with his parents and they say, we are so proud of you, that's fine. But he was taught to say, or to think, or to acknowledge, to own his wins, to own it, to embody it, to embrace his wins. In the meantime, Johnny is always looking for outside validation. Caroline said, I felt so proud of myself because of what I accomplished. Something that could have torn me apart. It actually did. It actually did. Emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and even physically, because she said, I literally took myself to a dark place. Number one, the shock that I went through, the betrayal, and just really blaming myself for not knowing, for not seeing the signs, for being so absent-minded. And but once she decided to pivot, that decision, remember, I've always shared that it only takes a decision. It takes you making a decision in your life. What is it that you want to do? Where is it that you want to go? Who is it that you need to become? And what is it that you need to do to become who you really are, your true authentic self, so that you can live your life unapologetically and enjoy the rest of your days? One decision it takes. And some of you continue to vacillate, to just, go through life and without a purpose, without a plan, without, not even, because I always say, the purpose of life is pleasure, and not even really doing that. And again, you decide what gives you pleasure, what brings you joy. But one thing you cannot do, and that is to lie to yourself. You don't want to lie to yourself. You don't want to lie. You want, whenever you make a decision, whatever it is that you decide, you want to be truthful to yourself, whatever brings you joy. So don't say, and again, you don't have to share this with anyone, but don't lie to yourself and say, well, yes, I am truly happy. And so. No. Whatever it is that you want to do, because it is possible. I mean, Caroline, just her story is, in the beginning when she started sharing, I thought, oh my gosh, 60 years old. And when I say 60 years old, it's not because of the chronological number but 60 years old. In sometimes you think, or you could have a tendency to think, well, what can I do at 60 years old? I don't have any experience in corporate America. I don't have any experience working at all, making an income, bringing in money. I don't have any of that. I've been now a housewife all my married life, 35 years of being married, raising kids. That's what I do best. She raised 3 amazing kids, and, of whom she is very proud of. And here she is now, having to take care of herself, mentally, emotionally. She said her entire nervous system was out of whack, dysregulated. I'm looking over here because I'm looking at that. Her entire nervous system was just out of whack. She said, I couldn't think. I could not even, she said, because of where she is now, the fact of owning a business and doing what I'm doing, a successful business, mind you, she said, that did not even cross my mind, much less a bakery. She said if she had to go out and work, she'd just as soon go into retail or some kind of a sales thing. But when she paused and start thinking about when she paused and start thinking about the way she looked and decided to make a change physically, she looked at her hair and it was all out of whack, and she said, she's gonna cut it. She cut her hair and then she colored her hair and got rid of her old clothes and bought new clothes and accessories and all that. Once she did that, Caroline said she felt empowered. Again, not by external forces, not by external influences, but self-empowered. She embodied the new, she said she felt like a boss. Well, she didn't say boss, but she said she felt in command, is what she used. Caroline felt in command. And once she did that, in her mind, as a matter of fact, she said, what can I do now? As a matter of fact, she said she was thinking, where can I go and apply for a job? Where can I go to work? And then her mind kept telling her, but I'm 60, but I'm 60, but I'm 60. I'm 60 years old. I'm 60 years old. And she said she had to shut it down, those thoughts. And then she started thinking, what do I do best? What do I, in all my years of raising kids, what has been the highlight of all of that besides raising three amazing kids? And then she thought, you know what? Everybody always brag about my pastries. That to me is so, because I would say pastries. That's quite interesting. Pastries. I'm going to make it a little warmer in here. I would say pastries. Oh my goodness. But yeah, pastries. And then instead of trying to wing it, you know what she did? She went to school. She thought, I am going to learn all the ins and outs of this whole industry, this business. And she wasn't even thinking in terms of opening a bakery. She just thought in terms of learning to do it professionally. And as time went on, she got more clarity. Clarity came to her. Clarity came to her mind. Clarity. I'm telling you. And as she began to move based on the clear vision and ideas that she had, things started to align. We talk a lot about alignment, and this whole concept about being aligned is really what takes you into that place of knowing who you are, opening doors, giving you favor, bringing you into amazing experiences, situations. Alignment, my friend. How aligned are you? What is the clarity that you have about your life? Look, I don't like when people say, if I can do it, well, so can you, because that is almost derogatory. But that is what Caroline did. That is what Caroline did. And the thing to know is that we all have the ability to expand. In most cases, we have to update our belief system. What are your thoughts about you? What do you believe about yourself? What are your thoughts about your family? What are your thoughts about the people that you spend time with? Are they adding to your life? Or which causes you to thrive? Or are they subtracting from your life with drama, with chaos, with distractions, with jealousy and envy and hypocrisy and gossip and all of that? What are they, or are you spending time with people that are thriving, that are abounding, that are growing, that are enjoying life, that are doing what they want to do? People that are encouraged, people that have a different outlook, that people that have a different outlook on life. In most cases, we have to update our thinking, our belief system. What is it? The things that you believed yesterday, once you do research and you realize, now, wait a minute, that no longer applies to me today for my life. Then you update your thinking. You update the records. It's like your checking account. Once you make a withdrawal, you have to update. You have to update your balance. Are you updating your belief system? Are you updating your thoughts? Are you updating your feelings so that you can exercise emotional intelligence, social intelligence, so that you can understand that you create a culture for yourself? A lot of these things, we learn on our own. Once you make a decision, this is what I want to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, just like Caroline had no idea that she would wind up as a baker. She had no idea that she would wind up as a baker with a profitable business. I was curious. I almost wanted to ask, how is it going with your, with your ex? But of course, that's getting a little messy. But yeah, on her own, or if she was married, she probably would not have gone that route. Why? Because things were fine as she saw it. Things were fine in her marriage, in her relationship, and so forth. How can you update your life? What changes are you procrastinating and hesitating and holding back before you make a change? What is the status where you are right now? What is your status? What are the things that you are motivated to do right now? What are the things that you want to do? You don't want to continue living your life by default, or going through the same routine, or not having a plan, not having a purpose, not being intentional. I encourage you, you are Caroline's story. You are Caroline's emotions, her thoughts, her feelings. You are Caroline's journey of your own, of course. Regardless, her story is different. It is different from what your story is. That's why I said we all have a story. Your story is a little different. Your story is different, but it's your story, and it's a valid story. Whatever thing you may consider a setback, my friend. Use that same experience, that same situation, and seek clarity within whatever it is that you may be facing. Within that same situation, you can find clarity that will help you pivot to the next level. Life is sweet. It's up to you. It is up to you, just like it was up to Caroline. I love her story, and I'm so glad that I was privileged to hear her share that story. I love the story. What is your story, my friend? I appreciate you joining me every Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, uh, to be inspired, motivated, encouraged on this show. And when your story begins to unfold, share it with me so that I can share it with others to encourage others as well. I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, so that you can sup on it. But not just to sup on it, so that you can introspect and start taking a look at yourself. And if you are where you want to be, then that is great. Bravo. But if you know within yourself that you want to kick it up a notch, or you want to get to a place where you can really say, I am really truly living my goal, my life, my dream, my desires. And again, you don't have to share anything. And if you choose to share it, make sure you share it with someone that's rooting for you, because not everyone is rooting for you. Not everyone is rooting for your well-being in terms of life and having fun and being accomplished and all of that. Every Thursday, right here. I'm here every Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Time. And if you can't join me at 2 p.m., then 24/7. You see these icons over here? Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can pick up the show 24/7. Some of you need to give me, to drop me a note, because you need a coach. You see the email? It says info@thecynthialinoxshow.com. Drop me a note and let's talk. It's time for you to get going. It is time for you to make an investment of time and resources into yourself. It is time for you to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to see you next Thursday, same time, same place. Tomorrow is Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, whatever it is that you choose to do. And we'll meet again. We'll see each other again. I will see you. You will see me. We'll connect again next Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Time, right here. Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Ciao, amigos.